What made you go, I'm going to start my own creative services agency?
I would say I did not intend to be an entrepreneur ever. I was working at a 9 to 5. I was feeling really burnt out during the peak of COVID. And within 3 months of working at that part-time job, I had signed a really big client and I was like, okay, it's actually okay.
How'd you land that first customer?
I am a classic agency owner in that I offered all the services. I did everything. I'm charging $100 an hour or $50 an hour.
Like, what were some signs at that point to go, this is going to be a scalable business?
Mm.
If you had to give one piece of advice to an entrepreneur who's in this stage, who's thinking of starting, branching out from their corporate life.
I think the myth having that full service agency model, having all of the things that you can solve for someone is not.
Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you so much for having me, Tukan. It's great to be here.
Amazing. Okay, so before we get started, you want to give a quick overview of what Unicorn Marketing does?
Yes, I love that you're smiling when you say my business's name because that is the
Yes.
goal. My name is Hope Mikal. I'm the CEO and founder of Unicorn Marketing Co. And we are a creative marketing agency based in North Vancouver. We work with lots of women-led businesses all across Canada, lots of service-based providers, CPG brands, nonprofits, and our specialty is really bringing stories to life. And I love the work that I am doing. It is so much fun. A lot of our clients are like jewelry designers or food delivery services, a lot of small mom and pop businesses all across Canada. So it's exciting because every day is different.
Amazing. And we will get deeper into your actual customers and how you get what
Mhm.
kind of customers. I guess first off, take us back to the moment you decided to start this business. What was that like? Like, what made you go, you know what? I'm going to start my own creative services agency.
Yeah, so I would say I did not intend to be an entrepreneur ever. I was always comfortable working for other people. I worked in a lot of other agencies before starting my own business. I have a background in events and marketing. I worked for the flagship TED Talks event. Are your headphones okay?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm getting over a cold. I've also worked in PCO, marketing, scientific, and academic conferences all over the world. Worked for a film production company as a communications manager and a production manager, finding actors and sourcing locations, lots of different background. And it's been a really fun journey. And when I started my business, I didn't think that it was going to be what it is today. I was working at a 9 to 5. I was feeling really burnt out during the peak of COVID. I was marketing scientific conferences and obviously events during COVID went from being completely in person to being virtual, which led to a huge stage of burnout.
Hmm.
So I thought, okay, I need to find some joy in my life. And I started freelancing my marketing services and design services and just having fun with it, doing something on the side. And then I quickly found an influx of work where it grew and grew and morphed and changed into what it is today. So again, I did not think that this was going to be what it was. And I'm grateful for that journey of all those ups and downs.
So let me understand this. During COVID, you wanted to find some joy, which is
Hmm.
great. And
Hmm.
you were doing this on the side while you were doing your 9 to 5.
Yes.
And then after what point into this side hustle, side gig, where it became, you know what, this is my main thing, and
Yeah.
I'm going to quit my 9 to 5 and do this full time?
Yeah. So for me, I am a slow processor. I am a very intuitive person. I feel a lot of feelings. So there was a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress, also a lot of excitement. And it was a slow process. I quit my 9 to 5. I was continuing working on my agency and working with a team. At that point, I had a small team that I was working with. And I decided to get a part-time job just to give a buffer for myself, to give that
Yeah.
mental space. And within 3 months of working at that part-time job, maybe 4, I quit. I had signed a really big client and I was like, okay, it's actually okay to jump full feet in and get
Okay.
started.
This is awesome. Let me ask you this. So you were doing this freelance in the evenings on the side. So you had some customers,
Mhm.
and sort of the trigger point for you to go all in full time, no part time, no full time, just this, the brand, like the agency full time was once you signed a big client.
Yeah.
Walk us through how'd you get land that first customer?
How did I
Like,
land my first customer? Yeah. So again, I was not expecting it. Someone reached out to me and they said, "Hey, I worked with you in the past and I would love your support again in my business." And I
hmm,
thought, "Oh, that's kind of fun. Yeah, maybe I could do that on the side. I could do a little bit of freelancing and work on that." So it was through building community and the connections that I already had that helped me have that first client.
did you put it out anywhere on a public web or in your network that you are doing this on the side, or just
No, not for a
organically?
while. No. I was brainstorming, thinking about what I wanted Unicorn to
Mm,
look like,
hmm.
and it took a little while. It took about, like, 6 months. I didn't have a website for a good 2 years of owning an agency.
Wow. And you were doing this full time. You did not have a website.
Correct. Yeah, I had social media, and connections were coming through by referral, which was really great, and so I built my clientele that way.
Okay, very interesting. Now, when you first started, when you were doing full time, I hope when you went
Mhm.
full time into this, did you have a clear service offering from the early days, or how did that evolve? Like, what was your core offering that you were doing?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for asking that question. I am a classic agency owner in that I offered all the services. I did everything. I said, let's meet our target audience with every single thing that they could possibly need. And that wasn't the best route. This is not what I would recommend for someone starting out. I truly do believe that niching into your services and finding what you're really good at and what you feel the most confident in is key. And so if I was looking back to year 1 and year 2 Hope, I would tell her to start niching down as that's what I'm doing now in my business.
Okay,
Yeah.
and n- niching down. So this was one of my follow-up questions.
Mhm.
You mentioned that you are currently focused on small businesses, woman-led. That
Mhm.
that was a key thing. Is that one of
Mhm.
the niche that you
Yeah,
currently focus on?
that's a niche for me. Yes. Yeah.
And why is that? Any particular reason?
Well, yeah, that's feminism. This is me
Sure.
trying to lift up other people in my community and find people who have very similar values to me. And it sparks my joy to see other women thriving in business. And so these are the projects that I want to be working on most.
And is it that if someone comes in just out of curiosity that is not woman-led, would you
Okay.
not take that?
Of course, I would not be a horrible, rude person. I would have some considerations based on values, budget, project type, etc. But
Yeah,
again, where my heart is working with women-led businesses.
love it. Love it. In terms of early days when you were just started your offering where you're like, I'll do anything creative slash marketing for you,
Yeah,
whatever needs to be done. We
yeah,
have all been there.
been there.
How has your pricing or how you price the offering evolved?
Yeah,
Any
mhm.
interesting tactics or strategies you tried out?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started with the model of pricing for my time, how many hours I spent on a project. And
Mm,
we've all been there as well, or people are currently doing this. And I have to recommend that looking at a values-based structure for pricing is where it's at.
mm.
It's not. It's not easy to scale your business working on an hourly rate. And it's very easy for your customers to not see your value. This is a big miss, in my opinion. It just, I feel like it gives an air of downscaling yourself, and people aren't meeting you where you're at. If you are say like, oh my, I'm charging $100 an hour or $50 an hour.
Mm,
People don't see the whole value. They just see a price tag that doesn't align with them.
mm.
And so selling a service based on a values-based package for pricing is key.
Can you unpack a little bit more and like a specific example of values-based pricing? Meaning, what would that look like to an end customer?
Um, so let's say, for example, I have a virtual assistant client and they
Okay,
are charging by hour on, let's say, like checking my emails and doing
sure.
low level marketing
Yeah.
thing. I would say that while they do need to track hours, that is important, that charging for a set rate is where the value comes in. So perhaps instead of saying it's $50 per hour, it's say 100 or $1,000 per month. This is the package to work with
Mm.
a assistant team, and you're getting all of these services, and this is the experience that you're having.
So it's like a software subscription. Like you pay a fee, you get all of these things included. It's not like an hourly rate. I do this for 3 hours, this for 2 hours, that kind of
Right.
thing.
I think it's easy for clients to nitpick your business and what they think they need,
Mm,
but is also in marketing a struggle because often clients think they need something, but they might need a whole package. They might,
mm,
before they need a website, they might need to unpack their brand identity and messaging and
mm,
understand
mm, mm.
what they really do. I see that all the time. It's a very common problem for businesses.
Have you ever explored a performance or an outcome-based pricing or a hybrid model there? Hope?
Ooh, that's a great question. No, I haven't, but I like that idea. What do you imagine that looking like?
We hear this, especially in the AI era, in a software service. But let's think of the example in a marketing, which is there could be a performance component. So you can say, you know what, my rate is like we would charge $1,000 um, for building your website, driving traffic, running conversion rate optimization to improve conversion and all of that for that. But we know we are bringing a ton more value than $1,000,
Mhm.
right? We are putting in a lot of work to do that. To de-risk it for both of us, you pay us $1,000 a month. That's the minimum for the hour. But we then take a percentage of anything you make on
Mm,
top of sales, if it's an e-commerce product, for example. And so we both share the risk. I think it sounds kind of crazy, and not a lot of companies do that. I know some performance marketing companies might try that,
they
but that's
do,
that's
yeah.
what I'm that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, I don't personally have that model, though I see a lot of ads-based businesses
Right.
in Meta and Google offering
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, makes sense. Let's come to the unicorn marketing. I smiled as you said. Bring a smile to anyone's name.
Love it.
It is a bold name. It's a strong, bold name.
Thank
I love it.
you.
How does that okay, first of all, where did that come from? And how does that represent, sort of manifest in the work that you do?
Yeah, exactly. This is the epitome of me and my personal brand in some way. I think that business needs to be fun. As I said, I was looking for more joy when I started my business. So finding joy, having fun, having aligned values in the projects that I'm working on is key. And I didn't want to be something boring like Hope My Goal Marketing Co. or something like that. And I didn't want it to be reflective fully of my personal brand and my name, which is also common for service providers and
Yeah,
consultants.
yeah.
So kind of looking in that third sphere of naming and also enjoying the magic and fun that comes into my universe through this name is really important to me.
Very cool. I guess one follow-up question to that is how important is personal branding in
Huge,
building your business?
huge. It is
Tell me a
everything.
little bit more.
Okay, I took notes. Let me find it here. And so the way that we all lean into our own personal brand allows us to share our values, to share our real stories and create human connection. This is a
Hmm.
given. I think
Yeah,
it's a really missed opportunity for a lot of brands, especially in the ones that are not a we and they are talking with that we messaging and making themselves bigger than they are. There's nothing wrong with being the I and being a solopreneur and having that heartfelt connection to your audiences. We buy from humans. We want to connect with humans, and that's the stories that we want to hear. And this is, I would say, a trend, but it's going to
yeah.
continue. This isn't going away. So I think a lot of entrepreneurs are starting to into this. They also have a fear of being seen, which is completely understandable.
Yes.
But personal branding is huge for me. It's about how people interact with you. It's how you're presenting yourself. It is the confidence that you have. It's everything.
Is the color of attire that you wear, is that a
Yeah.
part of your, I've seen it on LinkedIn,
Yeah.
it's so vibrant, so colorful.
Yeah. I love it. I wear pink and red sometimes when I
Right.
feel like leaning in a little bit deeper into that unicorn lifestyle. I
Yeah,
have my
I
mural here
see
in my
that.
office.
Yeah,
You can
see that.
see.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's cringy. I am oozing the joy of my business.
And you think that that kind of a personal identity is a differentiator in a commoditized service market?
I do. I really
Yeah,
do.
I agree. I 100% agree. And I think even tech companies, tech startups are also leaning in on that. They're trying to get their CEOs and leaders to have a personal brand.
Absolutely.
Very few agency owners do that
No.
currently, but I
Yeah.
think they should be doing more of that.
I see it a lot in CPG brands of women who are
Hmm.
showing their faces, having more fun,
Yeah,
laughing, creating viral content with just a goal of enjoying themselves on social media,
yeah,
which in turn builds trusted community who are excited about your product, which in turn builds conversion to your website and sales.
amazing. So
Yeah.
you've been doing this for 4 years full time, Hope, did you say?
Yeah, 5 years.
5 years now. Perfect. Now, what has been the best performing customer acquisition channel for you till date?
Yeah. Great question. I'm just going to my notes. Please edit that out. Right. Okay. So again, building my personal brand is huge. Also building my team or building my community, pardon me, and building referral
Hmm.
network,
Okay.
having strong connections to people who I want to be working with. Without the intention of wanting to work with them, just genuinely being excited about their business, checking in, asking how things are going, having coffee dates, meeting them at conferences, and then being available when that project comes up and they do need that extra support. Non-conventionally, my podcast, The Magic Hour, has been a really wonderful way to develop my personal brand and to build more
Hmm.
trust and tell my story. I did not have that expectation in starting a podcast. I just did it again to have a bit more fun, enjoy, tell more stories. And it quickly became where I was having guests and then their communities were reaching out to me for one-to-ones and discovery calls, where past guests have even become clients, which has been really cool. So
Very interesting.
that's been a really neat way to see joy coming into fruition in business.
This is very, it's very obvious that joy is a key part of everything that you do. It's
Yeah.
in your branding, in how you build your network. So that's very neat.
Thank you.
If I may go back to some other questions at the start of it. So
Mhm.
you mentioned that you had when you first started, you had some team members
Mhm.
right
Mhm.
away.
Mhm.
And and then but you were doing some part-time job as a buffer. Is it as a buffer, like a financial buffer, so that there is enough cash flow coming in into the business?
Mental buffer, I would say.
Mental
At that
buffer.
time,
Okay.
I felt comfortable with the cash flow, but I was worried about the next 6 or 9 months ahead and how I was going to make that work. Just in
Right.
case. Just in case.
Right.
You never know.
Just in case.
So I would say it was more for my own peace of mind, which I also think is absolutely fine as a solopreneur or agency founder to transition back and forth between having full-time, part-time work, or just managing your business and managing incoming leads.
Tactically speaking, so when you hired these people, uh,
Mhm.
your teammates early on,
Mhm.
you already had some business coming in that you knew that you would be able to pay them for the next 3 to 6 months.
Yes, yes.
Interesting. And you made a lot of solopreneurs or independent consultant or agency owners we talked to. Initially, they just do it all themselves. They
Yes.
subcontract to people until they reach a point they're like, I am tapped out. There's a lot more demand. I'm going to bring someone else in.
Yeah.
You went different. You're like, I'm going to bring in other team members to support
Mhm.
this work
Mhm.
while
Yeah.
I do part-time job to make sure there is a buffer. And once you get that big client, you go, yeah, this is good.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. For me, leadership is huge, and building a team was something I was really excited to do. I
Hmm.
really wanted to have more connection and not be alone in that journey. My first hire was an assistant who worked part-time, who supported me on different projects and managing my inbox. I have grown and scaled and also retracted team members throughout my years.
Hmm.
But it's been a really interesting journey, and it's been really fun to have that team to work with. I have a network of freelancers that I reach out to
Mm.
on a consistent basis. So it's great to work on with different skill sets, different art direction styles, that kind of thing. And then I also have a more core team that I work with on a frequent basis.
Understood. At what point in this journey, 5 years ago when you started, did you realize that, you know, my offer has been clicking, I have a steady demand, I have reached what we call service market fit? Like, at what point was that? Like, what were some signs at that point that go, you know what, this is good. This is going to be a scalable business.
Signs that it was good was
Yeah.
recurring leads and community coming back into my inbox, people who are
Mm,
excited to work with me. Again, seeing consistent revenue was key. By year two, I reached my first 100K, which was really exciting.
you too. Okay.
And that's when I was working with a bigger team rather than just an assistant. So that was a huge wow moment for me that that could be possible, slash, I can keep going and make it better.
Love it. Okay. So now, how big is your team now, Hope? Full-time employees?
My core team is internally of 4 and then a realm of contractors.
Nice. That's a decent size. Yeah. Uh, what does Walk us through what a typical day looks for you as an agency owner.
Yeah, it's different every day, as I'm sure
Yes.
every person will tell you on the
Sure.
podcast.
Yeah.
I'm more of a creative project manager in my business, so I am working individually with team members, mentoring, reviewing. A typical day for me is probably checking my inbox and going on LinkedIn. um, And then from there is either going to meetings, which I try to book in the morning to get them out of the way, and then spending time in the afternoon working on my projects and mentoring slash getting through the next goal of the projects that we're working on. But it's so different every time. I could be shooting content with clients. I could be going to networking events. I count that as being part of my business.
Mm-hmm.
Be speaking and doing virtual speaking opportunities and conferences. There's a lot going on behind the scenes.
Do you dedicate, do you have dedicated time every week for business development or nurturing your network and those kind of
Yes.
things? You block some time?
I quickly learned that having a CEO day for myself is huge. Sometimes it's not a day,
Interesting.
sometimes it's an hour, but I try and allot one day of the week where I'm working on my accounting or my bookkeeping, where I'm thinking about how to grow my offers or scale something, where I'm already kind of systematizing what's happening in my business and also just working on that growth phase.
Amazing. CEO day. I like that term. Um, if you had to say that, when you were starting off, we all face different challenges depending on what stage of the business we are in. But early on, there are some challenges that everyone faces, that's for sure. What were some of the top challenges that you faced in when you were starting up in this 0 to 1 journey?
Yeah, so many. I had no idea what I
Okay.
was doing. As we
Okay.
all do. I think you just have to start and do it anyways. For me, scaling my business was about finding the confidence in telling my own story. I am
Mm,
fantastic at helping other people see themselves and realize their dreams. But for me, being seen was a very big block. So acknowledging that, working through that was very interesting. Still a work in progress, of course. I also, as I mentioned, I didn't have a website. I went through different iterations of my brand. It was not always cute and pink and red. And I had a few versions of myself to get to where I am today. So honoring that process and journey, honoring that scrappy startup kind of vibe, slash to now being a much more professional vibe, quote unquote, I think is really important. And also, there's clients that I didn't want to work with that I quickly found that weren't that value aligned fit,
mm.
that service market fit. So having the honesty and integrity to say no thank you and step away was important to me, is important to me. And that was something I learned in the first few years of business as well.
Okay. I guess this is a question that I ask everyone that comes on this show is, if you had to give one piece of advice to an entrepreneur who's in this stage, who's thinking of starting, branching out from their corporate life and finding joy, as you said, starting their own business, or maybe someone who has just started, what's one piece of advice that you'd give someone in that stage?
Okay, I have so many.
Okay.
But the first one
Yes.
Yes, I think the myth of having that full service agency model, having all of the things that you can solve for someone is not what you need to be doing. You can't be
Mm,
everything to everyone. So again, niching into your messaging, niching into your core offerings is where you're going to find the most success, the most turn rate. You're going to understand who you best work with, how you're doing that service, feel confident in offering that service. I learned through paring down my offers that I can have those other services available, but they're on a secondary and tertiary basis for people who need it or who I want to work with. For example, I wouldn't work on email marketing with just anybody. I would make sure they have a few different things in the works first, and then we would grow into that phase rather
mm.
than burning myself out or only looking at one piece of the funnel that might not work for that business, actually.
That's very interesting. When did you learn? Because initially you were doing full service, everything, whatever you need, I got it.
Mhm.
When did you realize, you know what, I need to niche down in my offering?
Yeah, year 4. So
Year
not
four.
quite recent. I was
Okay.
doing everything for everyone, and I definitely felt that nudge from going to different mastermind groups and chatting with other business owners, and that was one of the most valuable pieces that I had as a takeaway.
That's actually an interesting comment I want to ask you. So I have been grateful enough to some folks have invited me because we are
Cool.
building Gia for agency owners and consultants. Like that's the only market we want to sell to. So they have invited me over to listen to some of the pain points. I just listened. Is that a big part? Has this been a big part of your growth, professional growth, your journey in being part of this mastermind group?
It's been more recent, but building community is what
Mm.
I would say has been a big part of building my journey. So just as you're reaching out to people, you're listening, you're hearing what's working and not working for them.
Yeah.
I enjoy doing that in networking events, just going to like virtual events, meeting people where they're at, talking to people on LinkedIn, just pushing myself to find new connections and see what resonates. Masterminds again has been a new thing for me where I have been going to more events. They're much more niche. There are people who are just like me, who are mirroring back to me their own issues. And there's a lot of growth that can happen in those rooms. But I do not think that you need to go to a mastermind event or be in a mastermind community for X amount of dollars in order to grow. There are so many other ways.
Understood. So some of these mastermind groups, I'm guessing you're saying they're paid, like you have to, there's a
Yes.
membership fee you have to pay.
Yes, often,
Got it.
yes.
Got it. Cool. Well, that those were all the questions I had hoped. This was fantastic. Thank you for
Cool.
sharing all these insights.
You're welcome.
I love, love the personal brand you have built. It
Oh, thank
definitely
you.
makes you stand out. Like
Thank you.
literally, visually, when I look at your posts on LinkedIn, those bright pink jackets and the coat that you wear, I'm like, okay, from far, you know this is hope. And then I can go into the post. It gives joy, as you said, it gives fun. So
Mhm.
you've definitely leaned on, you found your niche, that personal branding, it's working.
Thank you so
And
much.
absolutely, and thank you for sharing these insights. So for people, if they have to find you, where would they be able to find you?
Yeah, thanks for asking that question. I always ask that question to my guests too. Definitely check out my podcast. It's the Magic Hour podcast on Instagram. You can also listen on Spotify and Apple Podcast. And to follow along on my agency journey, you can find Hello Unicorn Marketing on Instagram or at Unicorn Marketing Co. on TikTok. My website is unicornmarketingco.com.
Amazing, amazing. That's great. And this is just came to my mind.
Yeah.
Given your target market, CPG, retail, that kind of a thing, that makes sense why it's TikTok and Instagram more than LinkedIn.
Yeah, sorry, I should say I'm on LinkedIn too. I've been growing that a lot this year, but I have more fun on Instagram and TikTok than on LinkedIn.
Yes, LinkedIn is not that fun. I will agree with that. Very good. All right. Well, that's it. I'm going to stop the recording. Give
Great.
me
Thanks so much for having me, too, guys.